Hey guys, hope you and your family are doing well. Welcome to the weekly IBD 50 video where I take you through stocks in the IBD 50 list that I think are displaying some constructive basing action and are on my watch list. MarketSmith are the sponsor of this video. Discounted trial available in the comments if you are interested. Let's go on into it. First up of the 11 is Melly. So I think this one is looking interesting business model as well. Potentially building a large phase one accumulation type base with a high low, so some VCP type action going on. You can see the structural high lows, nice volume footprints in the bottom of this base as well. You've had two higher quality growth funds increasing their position in the most recently reported quarter. Big old boys as well, being JP Morgan Large Cap Growth and also Fidelity Contra Fund in there. What I like also, take a look at these earnings per share. Estimates for 2023 plus 57%, for 2024 plus 51%, with the guidance up as well. Very liquid stock, positive reaction to the earnings that came out last week, especially in this market environment, plus 457% on the earnings. Sales accelerating as well versus the prior year, so year-over-year basis, from 2.1 billion up to 3 billion. That's a 41% increase. And then after-tax margins in recent quarters accelerating too, 2.9, 4.7, 4.8, 5.5. So you could look at this as a large base that's building. You go onto the weekly chart, you can see it as well. See how it's building high lows, potentially trying to come out of this large phase one base. Take a look at these RS lines versus the market versus the stock zone industry group as well. So what am I looking for? I'm looking for it to tighten around the 10 EMA and 21 EMA, which is that pink line in there, and also this green line in here for a little lower pivot. So just looking for price to get nice and tight. And those of you who've followed me for a while know I'm looking for that quintessential trigger bar. So Melly, I think that's interesting. Couple of oil and gas stocks coming back on the radar, so it's going to be interesting. Some of them in the IBD 50 list as well. So you can clearly see the VCP action now. It feels like oil and gas stocks again a little bit longer in the tooth. Some of the moves that they have made, but I would say positive reaction to the most recent earnings, which were plus 999%. You've got sales plus 60% as well, so potential lower pivot forming around $70. Now short term a little bit extended, so we'll be watching for a little pullback, tighten up in there. But oil and gas stocks looking interesting. PBF is another one as well. You can clearly see the VCP action here, right? You could be backdating it all the way to here, but see how this stock is putting in these constructive high lows. Volatility is generally diminishing as well. Positive reaction to the earning. You got Invesco Discovery, who initiated a position in Q3 of 2022, added in Q4 of 2022 as well. Then a potential low pivot forming around the mid $40 level, $45 ish. You got the 10 EMA and the 21 EMA there. 50 SMA is just below as well. So looking for price to tighten up. But these oil and gas stocks, they look like they were rolling over a little bit, but you're seeing the strength coming back in. So keeping my eye on some of these oil and gas stocks to tighten up. RVNC. Now this is a biotech stock which is displaying excellent relative strength versus IBB, which is the biotech ETF I keep an eye on. Really positive action coming up here. Now the stock is starting to base out along the 10 EMA and also the 21 EMA, which is this green line. Fantastic RS lines. Wells Fargo growth initiated in Q3, added in Q4. Now at the time of filming, earnings is coming out in 2 days. I'm not going to buy a biotech stock with earnings in terms of the proximity earnings being that close. So I'll be watching and waiting on this stock, see the reaction to earnings. Maybe it tightens up thereafter. But certainly one of the strongest biotech stocks, and certainly one of the strongest in the IBD 50 list. Uber. We all know about Uber, and what I think is quite interesting here is Fidelity Contra Fund initiated a position in Q4 of 2022. Now, if we take a look at Uber on the weekly chart, it's a relatively new IPO. It came out at a fairly volatile, ahead of a fairly volatile time of the market. If you think about COVID, and then you think about when this bear market really began, which was Jan-Feb. It was Q1 of 2021. So it's basically entered this phase 4 decline, but it's now displaying some constructive bottoming type action. It's building these high lows, trying to come out of potentially a large base. You've got Fidelity, big old boys in there who are clever as well, initiating a position. Now for me, it's a little bit short-term extended here. It's more of kind of a pullback buy at the minute into the 21 EMA. So what I would like to see is a little bounce closer to the highs of around $37. So kind of bounce in here, then pull back and start tightening up like this. This is what I'd be looking for. So a bit more of a kind of classic VCP type setup, and then you could look at this here as building out the cup and handle, and this would then obviously be that development in the handle over here. Very liquid stocks, some nice volume footprints in here as well. I think Uber's an interesting one to be watching. Semiconductor stock, so semis are looking fairly strong on the whole as well. This one here, this is AEHR, so really positive reaction to the prior 3 earnings reports. You can see that, you can see the volume coming through. Take a look at the earnings, take a look at the sales, take a look at the acceleration in the margins as well. Looking fairly darn strong, this stock. Now for me at the minute, it's kind of low in a potential flag type pattern, so I would like to see a little bit more work in here. This is not for me. This is not my kind of setup there. If I kind of use this as an analogy, so if you look here, I kind of feel like maybe it's around about here or something like that. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but for the purpose of describing what it is I'll be looking for, see how here it then bounces, pulls back in, starts putting in the higher lows. Now it doesn't really tighten up perfectly in there, but I'd be looking for more of a flag type pattern to form here. So ideally it bounces, start absorbing that overhead supply, then starts to tighten around the 1021 EMA. But I think AEHR is one of the semiconductor stocks on a smaller mid cap name. I think is more interesting. Very much a small cap name instead of a mid cap name. 2023 estimates plus 43% with the guidance up. 2024 plus 85% with the guidance up as well. I think it's a fairly strong stock to be keeping a eye on. Next one here is ANET. More kind of VCP action. Fidelity have been adding in recent quarters as well. So see how it's building these high lows. Decent sized base for this one here. Pulling back into the 1021 EMA. Ideally just kind of bounces a little bit into 140-ish. Pulls back in there. Gets nice and tight. And then the setup forms something like this. And then you can kind of draw that line there. And then ideally the 1021 is just kind of sitting there. Everything gets nice and tight. The volume is starting to dry out. Positive reaction to the most recent earnings report as well. Estimates look good. Forward guidance up for the next couple of years too. Earnings plus 72%, sales plus 55%, margins accelerating 30, 32, 33, 34. Interesting looking stock if that there can tighten up. Next one here, this is Super Microcomputer, so very strong stock. If you take a look at the RS line over the last 4 weeks or so, see how it's pretty much, I'm no mathematician, but that there looks steeper than a 45-degree angle of attack to me, versus its own industry group, very strong too. Now, on a short-term basis, this stock is choppy, it's wedging up here, but it is displaying a lot of relative strength near the psychological level as well, Livermore point of $100. So what I would like to see is price just kind of back and fill, pull into the 21 EMA, just tighten up basically. It's still volatile, it's a little bit wide, it's a little bit loose, so everything just calm down a little bit. You see, like, let me find a decent example. You see, like, see over here how you get this little period of kind of calmness in the stock. Draw that badly, but you see that in there, little kind of period of calmness, volume dries way up. That's something I'd be looking for on that one. Monday.com. So this stock here is a newer IPO. Again, kind of IPO during the bear market, which is, especially if it's kind of anything growth kind of tech orientated, has generally just got smashed into a phase 4 decline. So you can see this phase 4 decline here, but trying to build out this phase 1 basing type pattern. Tony Rowe, price, New Horizons have been adding, decreasing, adding in the most recent quarter. What I do like here is take a look at the earnings coming through in the 2 most recent quarters. So you can see plus 119%, plus 269%, sales accelerating as well. So this is a million, so 95 million, 108, 123, 136, 149. So it's nice to see that quarter over quarter growth in terms of the sales accelerating. So looking at this here is potentially a large phase 1 base. And then what I would be looking for is for price to now develop a nice pivot around the 1021 EMA. So it's sitting there on the 10 EMA. I would, for a stock like this, I'd like to see the 21 there as well, so I could go initial stop loss underneath the 10 and the 21. But Monday.com, I think is an interesting one. IoT is the next one. So same industry group as Monday.com, and similarly you're seeing some higher quality growth funds that have been busy there too, have initiated, and one has increased in the most recently reported quarter as well. So you can see the stock IPOs over here pretty much during the bear market, not kind of great timing from a price cycle perspective, but see how it's now trying to carve out this phase 1 base. The sales look good in the most recently reported quarter, plus 169 million versus 113 million. That'll be versus 4 quarters ago, but nice to see that acceleration there. For me on a short-term basis, kind of wedging up here, so it's one that now needs to develop the pivot. So high lows, tightness, 1021 there, volume dry up, trigger bars come in. At time of filming, earnings is due out in 4 days. Highly unlikely that I'll be buying it ahead of earnings, but it may be one that gets out really well on the earnings and then kind of builds a flag, tightens up thereafter the earnings. So definitely one that I'll be keeping a eye on. Perry. Interesting one here, because the stock, it didn't react well to its most recent earnings. Okay, you can see that there. It's actually, I would call this a bearish synchronicity change of character bar. Closes pretty weak. You can see the volume pops up on that day as well, but there's then a quick recovery afterwards. You get about 3-4 days that just power this stock back up near the highs of the base. The RS line, the market's been pulling back as well, but the RS line here, so the stock does that in the context of the current market environment. You can see that acceleration in the RS line here. Now it's starting to tighten up. So this is one I'm a little bit kind of torn on this one. Would like to see probably a little bit more duration before I consider this one, maybe a week or so, just tightening. I would like the 21 EMA to be there as well, which is that green line there that you see just running up here. So the 21 to be there. Volume is drying up constructively, so this one I'm a little bit torn on because of the reaction to earnings, but then there's certainly willing buyers there to power this back up. So it's one I'll be watching. Consistency in the earnings, the sales, margins accelerating, 16-16, 18-21, really good to see. Estimates are up, albeit not kind of stellar, but the forward guidance is up as well. 3 to 5 year look back on the growth rate is 30%. So yeah, it's a very interesting sort and very good quarter-over-quarter fund ownership here. So that's it, guys. I will wrap it up there. Thank you very much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in future videos.